The grand piano gleamed under the chandelier's glow as the guests whispered and laughed. At the head of the room, CEO William Sterling swirled his wine and smirked at the quiet black janitor standing near the back. "Play Chopin's Nocturne. Flawlessly," he said, "and I'll give you my daughter's hand in marriage." Laughter rippled through the elite crowd. It was meant as a joke, an insult disguised as a challenge. The janitor, Samuel, stepped forward. Moments later, the room would fall utterly silent. What happened next, no one was prepared for. Comment your city if you're watching. The Sterling estate was the kind of place where chandeliers sparkled like diamonds, and every wall held a painting worth more than most homes. William Sterling, a self-made CEO, loved to host opulent parties for the city's most powerful. Samuel worked behind the scenes, polishing floors, arranging chairs, and making sure the champagne flowed without a hitch. Most guests barely noticed him, but tonight was different. In the center of the ballroom sat a grand piano, reserved for the evening's entertainment. When the scheduled pianist called in sick, a murmur spread through the crowd. William, half drunk and eager to amuse his guests, caught sight of Samuel, near the buffet. "Hey, janitor," he called out, "think you can play?" Then, with a sly grin, "Play Chopin, and I'll marry you to my daughter." The room erupted in laughter. It was meant to humiliate. Samuel paused, his expression unreadable. The crowd expected him to blush, stammer, or slink away. Instead, he calmly approached the piano and pulled out the bench. A few guests exchanged puzzled glances. William leaned back, smirking. "You know Chopin?" he taunted. Samuel didn't answer. His hands hovered over the keys for a moment, as if touching something sacred. Then he began to play. The first notes of Nocturne in E-flat. Major floated into the air, soft, deliberate, haunting. Conversations died mid-sentence. The laughter faded. Samuel's fingers danced with a grace that spoke of years of discipline, each note flowing effortlessly into the next. His eyes remained closed, lost in the music. In that instant, the glittering ballroom no longer belonged to the CEO or his wealthy friends. It belonged to Samuel. Whispers began. Someone asked how a janitor could play like that. Another recalled hearing of a young black prodigy years ago who vanished from the music scene. As the piece reached its swelling middle section, emotion rippled through the audience. Even those who had sneered at him now leaned forward, drawn in by something they couldn't explain. And at the far side of the room, Sterling's daughter, Claire, watched with wide eyes, not with pity, but with awe. The final note lingered in the air like a breath held too long. Then silence. Deep, reverent, unbroken. Samuel opened his eyes and stepped back from the bench. It was Claire who began to clap first, her hands trembling. Others followed until the applause became thunderous. William Sterling remained seated, his smirk gone. Claire crossed the room and said softly, "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." Only then did William learn the truth whispered among the guests. Samuel had once been a concert pianist, trained at a conservatory abroad, before racial prejudice and a series of setbacks forced him into menial work to survive. The janitor he'd mocked was a master. Sterling never mentioned his marriage challenge again. But the night left its mark on everyone present. For weeks, guests spoke not of the wealth on display, but of the man who turned humiliation into triumph. Claire insisted on learning piano from Samuel, visiting him daily. Through music, she learned not just skill, but the depth of a man who carried both talent and dignity through a world determined to overlook him. Samuel never sought revenge. His victory was in the silence that followed his performance, the silence of prejudice confronted, of arrogance humbled. Sometimes the most powerful act of defiance isn't anger or violence. It's sitting down at the piano and letting the truth play itself, note by note, until no one dares to laugh again.